Today I'm going to tell you how to get into comics, how to get into reading comics, how to get into collecting, all that good stuff. Before I do, make sure you like, comment and subscribe to this video so I know that you enjoyed it. Obviously, if you didn't enjoy it, drop a dislike and then I'll know. That's it, I hope you enjoy it. Let's get right into it. So firstly, I'm going to say how I got into comics myself. So I've always been a fan of Marvel ever since I was young. I've always been informed about the comics. I've not always read them. I started reading them about probably lockdown, so 5 or so years ago. But there is a difference between reading and collecting comics, because I did not start collecting comics 5 years ago. I've only been collecting for about a year or so. The way I started reading my comics was by using the Marvel Unlimited app. Now this is £10 a month if you're here in the UK. You get comics added every single month, every single day. All of the new comics are out 3 months after their release. So a standard issue like this will come out, say, November 2024. And it will come out on the app in February 2025. So you have to wait 3 months for the new comics to come out. That is so that the readers still have a reason to buy physical copies. Now I believe that Marvel Unlimited is a great way to get into comics because you have menus where you can choose by a character. I believe you can choose by a writer. So what I did, obviously I was a fan of Moon Knight. The Moon Knight series was coming out, so I just read every Moon Knight comic I could get my hand on. Jeff Lemire run, the Warren Ellis run, and that is how I started to enjoy reading comics. I sort of branched out, I went into Avengers, went into a bit of Spider-Man. I read a lot of Spider-Man actually. I say the first one I read was Moon Knight, that's a lie. First one I read was Amazing Spider-Man #1, so going to Moon Knight and Spider-Man sort of at the same time. So that is a great way to get into comics if you're a beginner, if you have no comic knowledge, if you have no room for physical comics, then digital is a great alternative. Obviously not just Marvel, DC have their own app. You can buy comics from Amazon, all good book vendors like that. Now getting into physical comics, I didn't start collecting them until about a year ago. My first one was, I'd picked up a few issues here and there, sort of like as presents. So I had like probably 5 or so comics before I properly started collecting. I even got one from the Spider-Man 2 video game that I still have in my collection today. But when I first started collecting physical comics, I made a list. So I've done a little bit of research. You will have to do a bit of research just so you know what runs are out, what runs are being written, what's coming up. And what I did, I just chose, I think maybe 3 or 4. So I wanted to collect Moon Knight as my favourite, I wanted to collect Spider-Man, and I also remember picking up Wolverine, the Sabretooth Wars run. So they were my first sort of 3 runs. And from there it just grew and grew. So I started reading them. And then I'd go to my comic shop, I'd pick up the free preview booklets. They look a little something like this, so you can pick these up free of charge, don't need to pay for them or anything. And what these tell you, so as you can see under here, it says December for February 2025. So this just tells you the upcoming comics, what's coming out. Also got some trade paperbacks in there, some collected issues. So what I did, I looked through one of these and I sort of just picked out what I'd like to read. Some new #1s that are coming out that I can start on. And then that's how I grew my pull list. Now, if you don't know what a pull list is, it's basically just a list of comics that you are collecting currently. So all the new releases every Wednesday. And what you can normally do is when you go into a comic shop, you can give them your pull list and they will order you a copy just for you and save it just for you. Sometimes at a discounted price as well. So you've started collecting single issues. Now the only problem with that is a lot of the time it's new releases. So you won't get any old ones. Especially in shops like Forbidden Planet, you won't get that big of a selection of back issues. It will all be modern day comics. What I recommend is, if you're just reading comics, I would recommend trade paperbacks. Something like this, collected issues, nice and thick. So this one collects about 12 comics, 12 issues of the Judgment Day run. And these big collected issues make it easier for you to read a full run rather than having to go out and find the individual issues, which a lot of the time can be inflated in price on the aftermarket, especially the issue 1s. But if you are a collector of single issues, you're not too bothered about reading, then the places I recommend are of course eBay and Whatnot. Whatnot is a live streaming service. You put bids on books, not sponsored, although if you do want to sponsor me I would be up for it. I've brought a lot of comics from there in the past just to bulk up my collection, some cool covers. A question that you need to ask yourself when you start collecting is, why are you collecting? So you'll have people that are collecting. So as you can see behind me, I have these slabs on the wall. Some people solely collect them. Some people just want single issues. Some people just want to read, so they go for trade paperbacks, omnibuses, epics. They're all sort of the same thing, just differ in size and how many issues are collected in there. For me, I'm a mix. I like to read, so I will pick up some trade paperbacks as well as new up and coming releases. But I also like to buy for the covers. So if I see a nice cover, I will buy it. I will add it to collection. I won't read it, but it's just something that I like to enjoy. So now you know why you're collecting, you know what you're collecting, you need to know how to store your collection. So the most basic thing you'll need is a box. So we've got this box here. You can get plain boxes, you can get graphic boxes. I tend to go for the graphic boxes because they make a nice addition to my background. So you get short and long boxes. I believe short boxes hold about 250 comics, I think, per box, depending on size. And obviously, if you're collecting these trade paperbacks in there, they will take up more space. And long boxes, I believe, take about 300. Actually, I think short box is 150. So short box is basically half of a long box. So you've just been to comic shop, you've picked up your issue, and it comes like this. No protection or anything. But what you need now is a bag and a board. Something like this. So you have the bag here, you have the board. So you just put the board in like that, and then the comic goes straight in like that. Now I buy resealable ones. So you stick it down like that. Some you can just tuck in or just fold over. It's all up to you. But what this does, this gives it a nice, more of a solid backing and protection from spills from the bag. So that's how you want to store them. And then you just slide it in, they fit nicely into the box like that. And that's how they're stored. Over time, as your collection grows, you'll get more boxes. Makes it easier to store your comics, keep them nice and protected. They all live in the same place. There's no downside to putting it in a box. It's so much better than just leaving it stacked on your desk. Because if you leave it stacked on your desk, it causes stress on the spine, will damage it that way. They stand nice and upright like that in your box. And just lean on each other, causes no damage. So I definitely recommend picking up a box if you're starting your collection, no matter how small it is. So you got yourself a few comics now, got yourself a box, but now you want to know, how do I keep track of my collection? Now, it's all on your phone nowadays, ain't it? So what I recommend is Key Collector app. This is an app that tells you all up and coming issues. It gives you a pull list, tells you key issues that are coming out, key issues from the past, and it also lets you track your collection. So there's mine. I will take a screenshot of it. Currently have 572 in my collection, spread out across 5 boxes. It tells you the value of your book. So if you have a valuable book, you can see the price, what it's worth, and you can also grade them. So what is a comic book grade? The grade is just the condition of the comic book itself. I've got away the other comic book somewhere. If it's not graded like this, if it's just a single raw comic, usually you'll go with a low, medium or high grade. Now most new comics you'll get a high grade if you go straight to the shop or even order from an online store. But the further back in time you go, the more likely it is to be a lower grade. So you want to keep that in mind when buying, because that can affect the value. Now if you have a really rare comic, a really expensive comic, and it's in a really top-notch high grade, some people will send that off to CGC. So as I mentioned before, I have slabs on the wall here. These are graded comics. Now what you do, you will send this over to CGC. They will inspect it. They will come up with a grade, and they'll put it in a slab to keep it protected, to keep it at that grade. And that is just yours to sort of showcase, to show off. You can't read it ever again. Some people are against it. Some people are only for grading. It's completely up to you. I like a healthy mix of both. A few of these I have multiple issues of raw as well. The best grade you can get is a 10 or a 9.9. Both of those grades are very highly unlikely to achieve. Very few comics exist in that grade. So what most collectors tend to aim for is a 9.8. These bottom 3 here on my wall, they're a 9.8, as well as that one there. And then I have a few ranging from 5.5, which is that Moon Knight issue 3, just there. And I have a 9.6 on the wall. The grade does affect the price if you're going to buy a grade. Sometimes the difference between a 9.6 and a 9.8 could be a few £100. So you want to make sure you do your research, make sure you know everything about anything that you need to know when buying and selling, buying to sell specifically. You don't want to be making an uneducated purchase. Of course, sending any book off to CGC is a bit of a gamble because different graders can give different grades. It's not It's not a perfect system, but it's the best system that they have. So sometimes you could even get a 9.4, crack the slab, which I don't recommend doing because it can damage the book. We can send it back off and it could even come back a 9.8, or it could come back a lower grade. So it's a risk that you'd need to be aware of. I believe that covers just about everything you need to know about collecting comic books. Be sure to let me know if I've left something out in the comments below. I will answer every single comment. I will answer any question you have to the best of my ability. Me personally, I mainly collect solo issues. I like to collect for covers. I like to collect for reading. I have a few slabs. I have a few trade paperbacks. I'm into a bit of everything, but mainly it's single issues. How do you collect your comic books? Let me know if this video has helped you decide how you want to collect comics, how you want to read comics, and I hope to see you in the next one.